All right, so Donald Trump is at it again, our 47th and 45th president, and we've got a lot of fun we can pay attention to today. It has to do with absolutely embarrassing, humiliating, and otherwise preventing the saving of face of Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, or as we are saying nowadays, the UK, which is spelled Yookay, UK. That's the unofficial name of the country, given their unfettered immigration situation. I am Joshua Lisec. This is Daily Persuasion. I am the New York Times bestselling author and co-author, a ghostwriter of more than 100 nonfiction books now, and a certified hypnotist. Through this unique set of experiences, I teach you how to better influence and persuade the VIPs of your life and career. Today we have a little bit of, let's call it Leeroy Jenkins Persuasion. Leeroy Jenkins Persuasion. So, in the announcing of the 15% tariffs against the European Union, Donald was seated opposite Mr. Starmer. And in conversation, casually, and with interviews from the press, Donald J. Trump drops this. He says, quote, "I am not a fan of your mayor," referring to Sadiq Khan. "A nasty person. He's done a terrible job, the mayor of London." To which Prime Minister Starmer says, "He's actually a friend of mine," with a little bit of a smile. It's a social grace moment. Understand that one of the most classist societies, after India, of course, is the UK. I have been there myself. I have observed this. There's this expression you might have heard of, like first class or second class citizen. No, this very much actually is true in the UK. Remember the new spelling. This is true. They have a set of, okay, these are the expectations of your social class, of your caste, and therefore there are certain expectations of you. For example, the sort of upward mobility generally isn't a thing. You don't belong there. Who do you think you are? You're not of this class. And the United States is a rejection of that idea. It's the fact that you can, in fact, become a member of the House of Lords via performance, via popularity, via excellence. That, of course, was the idea where state legislatures would elect senators. Sort of the Senate is sort of the House of Lords equivalent, House of Commons being elected, right? So there's not much going on hereditarily speaking, officially, in the United States, although New England does, in fact, carry on sort of a genetic aristocracy that is, while very real, it's a bit more private and down low and even keel. But once you start paying attention, you will see it. It's just not nearly as aggressively in your face as it is in the UK. So this is a moment where Mr. Starmer is pointing out that Donald Trump is not supposed to say something like that in public, given the standing that he has in the world. And of course, together with the smile, the laugh, and the awkward tie pull, Prime Minister Starmer does that thing where he reaches over and he tries to soccer mom the president, or almost like, oh, we don't say that here, or we don't do that here in the UK. Oh, we don't talk like that. And of course, following up to this, remember President Trump had just said he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London. Starmer says he's actually a friend of mine, and then Trump, without paying attention, not even acknowledging, not looking over, not doing any kind of nonverbal change up, just simply reinforces, I think he's done a terrible job. One particular Twitter user, now called X, of course, said, "So awkward and yet so right and hilarious." And then there is this fellow named Dudley Newright, said the following about this situation. "Women put a ton of effort into the meticulous maintenance of conversational etiquette, and it drives them up the wall watching Trump Leeroy Jenkins his way through conversations with zero concerns for his interlocutor's feelings." By the way, that's an interesting little word because I have heard three different pronunciations of it, depending on where you put it. Interlocutor. I've heard that one before. Interlocutor. Interlocutor. Interlocutor, depending on where you put the emphasis on which syllable. Most women hate to watch people squirm in embarrassing social situations. It's interesting, by the way, that Starmer sits like a woman, very much so like the former Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau. had feminine, or rather effeminate, nonverbal and verbal body language. And of course, the way that the voice is used, sort of ending up like this, ending sort of a plea. They do that a lot in their voice. Not quite that often, but that is how effeminate people speak. And so when Dudley Newwright's referring to women, he is saying within this group, it's approximately 80 to 85% of women and approximately 15 to 20% of males who are otherwise effeminate, to such an extent that they can be collectively, colloquially known as women. And Keir Starmer, of course, would be one of those. Dudley Newwright continues, "My wife can't even watch The Office, BBC, without physically recoiling at cringe scenarios, which are of course not even real. Historically, women were relied upon to uphold etiquette rules and maintain social harmony, and even today, women feel this responsibility in their gut, even if they've abandoned it on paper. Watching Trump boorishly double down on Starmer here, for example, after Starmer gives him a clear opening to show grace instead, refusing to even return the smile, is just excruciating for them. They spend their lives bending over backwards to help people save face in situations like this, but Trump just does not care, and that makes women, even conservative women, insane. They read it as sadism, when in actuality, it is refusal to allow social niceties to hide failure." This is why liberals hate the president and why conservatives, Republicans, nationalists, populists love him. I will say it again. It is a refusal to allow social niceties to hide failure. And of course, when it comes to keeping the people of London, which at one point was considered the greatest city in the world, it is no longer the greatest city in the world. I haven't back been there. People might say, well, what about New York City? Well, okay, yes, it's number one, but what we have here is collectively across the Western world, quality of life in cities has all been declining across the board, some declining at faster rates than others. But the point is, if your job is to take care of the people of your city, to represent them, to see to their best interests, that's correct. Khan has indeed been a failure. Now, there is a comment, reply to this, in which someone named @sacrilegious, like Beetlejuice, juice spelled like that, sacrilegious. "I'm an upper middle class, well-bred white woman who absolutely delights in this stuff that Trump does, and I know many who agree, like my 89-year-old Ohio mom. We're sick of being pushed around on the world stage by these PC bullies. Maybe your wife just needs to grow a pair. I think if she did, that would make her a man." In any case, Dudley Newwright responded, "Some women are built different." Yes, absolutely. So what can we take away from this scenario? Well, number one, Leeroy Jenkins Persuasion is something like refusing to allow social niceties to hide failure. Now, this speaks to a broader issue on persuasion. In one-on-one situations, in public, whether it's a press conference like this, a meeting of the minds and with the cameras present, or even something like a formal debate, or even an informal one over Thanksgiving turkey. The point is not to persuade the other person. It's to persuade everyone who's listening to you. So Starmer here is focused on all the wrong things. Niceties, friendship, touchy-feelies, keeping up with appearances, which, by the way, was a BBC show I remember seeing reruns of back in the 90s and early 2000s. That's very much so the case here. Not actually keeping up with what matters, the substance, but with appearances. Leeroy Jenkins Persuasion is you do not allow social niceties to hide failure. The point of refusing to hide failure is for the performance improvement opportunity you are now giving everyone else who's paying attention, who does not want to go unprotected from social niceties, who does not want to be embarrassed and otherwise humiliated, right? Therefore, the right time to deploy Leeroy Jenkins Persuasion is when there are multiple people present or will be observing the scenario, and they have an opportunity to change. And you may not necessarily want to confront all of them, or may not be able to confront and talk to each of them all at once in a performance review type situation. or in a family type situation. But you want to get the lesson across. You want to persuade everyone to change their behavior without having to talk to each and every one of them. Leeroy Jenkins Persuasion is effective and gets the job done. It probably burns the bridge permanently, but that would not be the first time it's happened to London Bridge.